Hi, my name is Chris Yukins. I'm a professor at George Washington University Law School in Washington, D.C. Welcome to this course on anti-corruption measures and procurement, public and private perspectives. This is a course sponsored by the International Anti-Corruption Academy. And this is 1A, the first module, the introduction to the course. Again, thank you for joining us. In this session, I'll be introducing myself, and then also we'll be giving you a quick overview of the course. As I said, I'm Professor Christopher Yukins. I'm a professor and co-director of the Government Procurement Law Program at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I teach in public procurement and anti-corruption at universities around the world. Very privileged to be able to do so. I was an editor on one of the books we'll be using in this course, the UNODC Guidebook on Anti-Corruption in Public Procurement. I'm a faculty advisor at the Public Contract Law Journal, which is co-published between George Washington University Law School and the American Bar Association. I'm a member of the editorial board of the European Procurement and Public-Private Partnership Law Review, which is published in Berlin. I was an advisor to the U.S. delegation that helped reform the UN Model Procurement Law, the Model Procurement Law developed by the UN Commission on International Trade Law, or UNCITRAL, and that was finalized in 2011, and then the Guide to Enactment, which we'll be relying on, was published in 2012. In private practice, I've been an associate and partner and counsel at several American firms, including currently the international law firm of Arnold & Porter. And also for a time, I served as a lawyer for the U.S. Department of Justice, again, handling public procurement matters for the U.S. federal government. This course proceeds in 6 basic modules. The first one, 1A, is this one. It's the introductory module. 1B is a discussion of basic concepts in procurement, the conceptual structures that we use to understand both how the procurement system is structured and why corruption can emerge in the context of a procurement system. The module 1C is a broader review of the context in which corruption arises. It's an assessment of the different types of competitive methods that can be used in procurement and a first attempt to explain how corruption can emerge in those different types of procurements. Module 1D is an in-depth study of a particular type of corruption, bidder collusion. It's an important study because it reviews not only how bidder collusion can arise, but also in practical terms how bidder collusion can be addressed and specifically how it's addressed in different legal systems, for example, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and the European Union. Module 2A is a review of anti-corruption strategies that are used in procurement systems around the world. These are different legal structures that are used, different legal strategies that are used by different procurement systems around the world to address common problems in corruption. And then Module 2B is our first review of compliance issues. Compliance issues specifically that arise in the context of procurement. It's a good introduction to how corporate compliance systems work and how they're particularly shaped for the challenges of public procurement and the corruption that can arise in public procurement. In this course, we'll have 2 basic Zoom sessions, 2 video conference sessions, each of which will be about 90 minutes long. In the first session, we'll be talking about topics 1A through 1D that we've discussed so far. There's readings will be assigned as well through the course outline. The video lectures, the first series, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, are the ones that you should be reviewing for that class. And in the last 30 minutes of the class, groups 1, 2, and 3 will present their group presentations. We'll be talking about those in just a minute. Similarly, in the second video conference session, we'll be talking about topics 2A and 2B. The readings, again, are assigned through the course outline. The video lectures are series 2. It's 2A and 2B. Those are the videotape lectures. And then groups 4, 5, and 6 will present in the last 30 minutes of class. The learning methods we'll be using in this course are standard international best practices in online education. We'll have the videotape lectures. We'll have 2 sets of them, 1A, B, C, and D, as we discussed, and 2A and B. We'll have the reading that's assigned. Then we'll have those live synchronous sessions, those 2 synchronous sessions we just discussed, those video conference sessions. The group assignments we'll be discussing in just a minute. There'll be a self-assessment quiz as well. And of course, there'll be discussion forum running as well for you to join in discussion with me as professor and with other students in the class as well. Give you a little background of the group exercises we'll be asking you to do. You'll be divided into 6 different groups. The first group will do a market estimate, will be a market assessment. We'll be using the U.S. federal marketplace as an example. It's very easy to access the data, and the group assignment will point you to the appropriate resources both for this exercise and for the other exercises. By the way, please read through all the exercises because the exercises overlap with each other, and there are resources that might be useful for you even if you're in a different group. Group 2 is going to talk about the contractor registration requirement that's required in the U.S. federal system on a system called sam.gov. That's a play on words for Uncle Sam. So the sam.gov system calls for contractor registration, for vendor registration, and the Group 2 will walk through what that means in practical terms. Group 3 is going to be looking at the compliance system requirements, and there's an additional requirement in the U.S. federal system. Having set up a compliance system, logically, information flows to the top of that compliance system, flows to the leadership in a corporation through the compliance system. That's what the compliance system is intended to do. Well, as information flows to the top of the organization, then under U.S. law, if there are certain types of bad acts that are identified, for example, if the leadership in a corporation learns that a bribe has been given, then there's a mandatory disclosure requirement. The contractual provisions in the Federal Acquisition Regulation require at that point that there be a mandatory disclosure by the leadership of the corporation to the government, to the contracting officer, to an inspector general, a mandatory disclosure of that bad act. So that's an important part of understanding the U.S. compliance system that has this additional piece, which is a mandatory disclosure piece. Not all systems have this, but the U.S. has been using it pretty successfully now since 2008. Group 4 will talk about debarment, which is the exclusion of a contractor from a procurement system, usually for a term of years. A related issue is what Group 5 will be addressing, which is contractor qualification. In every procurement, a contracting official or a procuring entity, the agency itself, has to decide that, in fact, the contractor is qualified, that the contractor that's been selected for award is, in fact, qualified, or to use the American terms, is responsible. It is a responsible contractor. That's contractor qualification, and Group 5 will be addressing that. The last group, Group 6, will be talking about 2 related topics. One is the competitive method, the method that's used for competition for award. And then Group 6 will also be talking about a related issue, which was whether or not the competitive method that's suggested in this hypothetical is in fact is the appropriate one. Group 6 will be walking through what it would mean for the vendor to challenge the selection of the competitive method, saying, no, it's not an appropriate competitive method, we should use a different one, through a bid challenge mechanism, what in the United States we call a bid protest. Thank you for joining this course, and I look forward to working with you over the coming weeks as we address issues of anti-corruption and procurement.